Well, did you know that most stories have a structure? Good stories have a structure. And this is an example of a very simple structure for a story. And they all have a little bit of variety to them. But let's see how it fits with the story of Cinderella. There's this girl named Ella, and she's living with her mother and father, and life is happy and everything is good. And her mother dies. This is the conflict. Her mother dies. And her father marries this really selfish lady with two nasty daughters. And Cinderella, the conflict is rising here, the action is rising, and Cinderella is not happy. She's in a bad place. Well, she stays fairly happy, but she's kind of a slave, and hence the name CinderElla. Now she's Cinderella. It's just plain Ella because she's gets to clean out the chimney and the ashes and is dirty all the time. So anyway, her life just goes really kind of badly, and then the prince decides to call a ball so that he can find a wife. And Cinderella doesn't get an invitation. But then Cinderella gets a fairy godmother. And the fairy godmother sets her up with some really nice stuff. And she goes to the ball. And she gets to the ball. And everything is going great. And then midnight comes. And boom, everything falls apart. The chariot turns into a pumpkin, all kinds of bad things happen, and she loses her slipper. Yeah, it seems like a bad thing, but then later on it's a good thing because the prince goes and tries to get the slipper on all the girls around, and finally there's only one person who gets the slipper on, and that's Cinderella, and that is probably the climax of this story. It might be when the clock strikes 12. Somewhere in there is the climax of the story, and then the action falls fairly quickly. They get married and live happily ever after. And the evil stepmother and stepsisters, they're her servants, and that's the resolution to the story, and that's pretty much happily ever after. And that's how stories go. Star Wars has kind of the same story. Lots and lots of stories have the same basic plot or the same structure to the story.